So, could you share with our audience a background of your family and where you are from?
So my name is Nishal, and I am 18 years old. I was adopted from India, and now I live in France. I am the eldest brother of a family of three children. My younger sister is college. She's 16, and she was adopted from Bangalore. And my younger brother, Gabriel, is now 15, and he was adopted from Pune. I've got two parents. My father is 100% French, and my mother is 50% Indian, 50% French.
And how old were you when you were adopted, and how old were your siblings when you were adopted?
So when I was adopted, I was 9 months. My sister was 1 year old, and my brother was 6 years old.
So, Nishal, what was it like growing up with the knowledge of your adoption status?
So it was very natural for me because my parents told me about adoption since always, and so when I grew up, it was very natural for me. I never had any issue about it.
So, how do your friends respond to the fact that you were adopted?
Well, I like to keep my life private, so not a lot of friends knew I was adopted until they met my parents. But when they met them, they were really curious about adoption. They wanted to know how it works, and they also discovered that my family was not different from theirs. Um, so they're really impressed and happy to see a new way of a new kind of family.
So, did adoption affect your schooling years?
No, because I was a good student, so I was really focused on work. And my friends, well, they didn't always knew, as I said, that I was adopted. So it never really was an issue. Uh,
How is it being an adult and sharing your views on adoption at this stage in your life?
well, I'm 18 since a few days, so this means I'm an adult since a few days. Um, but I think it's very important for the adoptees to talk about adoption because we are the first concerned, and we like people to also understand our point of view and see how it went for other families and other children.
How did your parents share the information of your adoption with you?
Since I was adopted when I was 9 months old, my parents started to read me stories about adoption and not having same mother or same father. Then, when I was able to read myself, I started to read those stories alone. Then, when I grew up, I was able to access my adoption files in India, which helped me to answer a few questions. And then we also celebrate Gotcha Days, which is basically the birthday of adoption every year to remind ourselves who we are and to show that we're very proud of being adopted.
So, Nishal, were you ever curious to find out more about your birth parents?
No, not really. I'm not that curious. I know my biological mother's name, but that's it. And I'm really focused about my current life, my studies, my family, my friends. I was a little bit curious when I was very young, but then I've got the answers I wanted. So
So, Nishal, tell me, what do you think is necessary in establishing a healthy relationship between children and parents in adoption?
I think the first thing that is important is to make it the most natural possible. So as soon as the child arrives in the family, um, he deserves the right to know about his adoption and the subject of adoption, how it works. So this could be made through books or movies sometimes, and then when the child is quite old, the parent need to adapt themselves to the child because the child comes with his past, and we saw that with my young brother who arrived when he was 6 years old. the whole family, my sister and my parents, we all adapted ourselves to my brother's style of life and his habits.
So, Nishal, were you ever asked intrusive questions about your ethnic background? And if so, how did you respond to it?
When I was in elementary school, some children made some racist remarks, but then the teachers and the parents told them that racism was bad, and they learned from them. They understood their mistakes, and we were great friends. So there was no not big issue about it. And then when I grew up and I went to high school, there were a lot more children with different backgrounds, so there was no more racism in school after that.
So, Nishal, tell me, how do you feel about India and your heritage?
Well, I am very proud to have Indian origins because India is a beautiful country with a very rich culture and history, highly respected in Europe and in France. Um, I love the food. I love Indian food, biryanis, ladus. I also love sports, so I follow Indian football teams. I also follow Indian cricket national team, and yet I still feel very French. Uh, since I've always been to India twice in my life. I really feel more like I am French than Indian.
So would you like to visit the country again?
Yeah, perhaps in the future, maybe for a trip because I'm a very curious man, or for business reasons. I don't really know why, but I will certainly go back to India in the future.
Did you at any point contemplate root search, or does this interest you at all?
No, I never made any root search because I don't, f- I'm not that curious about my past. I know my biological mother's name, but I don't feel like if I do any research, it will affect my future. I think I know everything I need to know for the moment, and perhaps in the future I might want to know more, but that's not the case.
Okay, so Nishal, tell me, do you think a child by adoption faces more hurdles in life than a child from the biological root?
Well, not in my case, because for me, adoption was very natural, and for my brother and sisters as well, we're all very happy to be in this family and to be in France. But I know that for some children, adoption is very complicated and is a big issue, especially when they learn very late that they were adopted. Um, they can have a few problems during their childhood. Um, but then adopted children and their families have open minds, sorry, and they're much more tolerant and also curious and bicultural, which are, I think, very important things in our modern world. Uh,